Okay, so if we're adding integers, there's a couple tricks I want to show you. First, we'll do a number line. Okay, so we have our line here. Usually we put 0 in the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. To the right is normally the positive direction. To the left is normally a negative direction. Or I'm going to call that -5. Okay. Your very first question says what? -4
plus 4
plus 4.
model each one.
Okay. So what they want you to do is always take the first number as your starting point on a number line, which you did. So -4. So that means we are starting on -4. Okay. From there, though, they want us to go in the positive direction for 4 steps. Okay. So it's not that they want us to go to +4. They want us to move 4 steps in the positive direction. So in other words, we go from here. We go 1, 2, 3, 4. What number are we at now?
0.
0. So -4 plus +4 is
0.
0. Okay. Give your other question a try like that.
-2 plus -3.
Okay. Say we're subtracting integers now. They have an example of 5 minus -2, right? 5 minus -2. It actually gets pretty confusing when you have a negative followed by another negative. Okay. Now I know we haven't done multiplication and division rules yet, but one of the rules. Have you done them before?
I think when there's 2 negatives, it turns into a positive.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's 5 plus 2.
Yeah. So yeah, one way to look at this, yes, is to apply the multiplication rules to it. So instead of reading this question as 5 subtract -2, because there's 2 negatives here, we know that according to our rules, a negative times a negative, so we'll write it like this, equals a positive.
Yeah.
Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to change that. We're going to combine those two, and we're going to be left with 5 plus 2, which is a much easier question to look at. What is 5 plus 2?
So,
yeah, there we go. We have it. So whenever you have any integer pairing, where there's an integer and another integer, so we have a positive times a positive. So if we have a plus sign together, what's it going to be?
plus.
That's right. It's going to stay as just one plus sign. And then let's say we had a negative and a plus sign.
Negative.
Yeah, it's going to be a negative. So I'll make up 2 quick questions using the same numbers. So that would say example 1. Let's say we have example 2. We have 5 plus positive 2. Yeah, so it's going to be 5 plus 2. Same question. So left with 7. And then finally, if we have 5 subtract positive 2, what will that end up looking like? Yeah. What do we turn those 2 integers into? If we have, remember our rule, if I have a negative and a positive, what am I going to get? Yeah, so I have a negative and a positive. I don't need to put 2. I can just put 1. I can put subtract, right? 2. And then we have 3. And the same rule, ready? We're going to call this, call it 4, but I'll put it right beside it because it's the same idea. What if we have 5 plus -2? Again, I have... Yeah, because I have a positive and a negative, so I'm still stuck with 5 subtract 2. It's going to be... Yeah, there we go. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, give those ones a try. Okay, multiplying and dividing integers. Just like in the last one, we went over these quick rules. If I have a positive multiplied by a positive, my answer is going to be positive. If I have a negative multiplied by a negative, my answer will still be positive. And then if I have a negative times a positive, my answer will be negative. Okay. So once we know that, all we have to do is focus on the numbers. And that's the exact same for division too. Okay? Instead of rewriting it 3 times, just remember that's the exact same thing for division. So let's say we have a question. We'll do 3 different examples, or even 4. Example 1. Let's do 5 times 2. So this is positive 5 times positive 2.
Okay.
Positive or negative?
Positive.
Positive, yeah. Always important we make sure which one we got, okay?
You have to put the plus sign?
It's usually implied plus signs, but negative signs aren't, so you have to put negative signs. Times -2. It's going to be
plus 10.
Yeah, so I could have just written 10, or I can put positive 10, it doesn't matter. Here we go. Let's say we have negative 5 times, a lot of times it'd be written like this.
Negative 10.
Yeah, that's right. And 4, we have 5 times negative 2. What are we getting?
Negative 10.
Exactly. Easy? Alright, give that page a quick try. Okay, distributive properties. So they have the first question. It says 20 multiplied by 50. They use minus 2. Okay? So, the distributive property, well, according to BEDMAS, technically we would deal with this first. Okay? We would know that 50 subtract 2 would be 48.
So we're simplifying.
Yeah, we'd simplify, and then 20 subtract 48 is going to be 960, I think. Right? Yeah. So we get 960. The distributive property tells us that...
Don't you have to times 20 by 48?
Yeah, I did. 20 times 48 is 960. Yeah. Now, the distributive property, what they're talking about, is instead of doing it that way, there is another way we can do it. Technically, what I could do is I can take this 20 and multiply it by both the items inside, so both of the numbers. So 20 times 50, that's going to give me 1,000. Yeah. 20 times 2 is going to give me 40, and technically it's 20 times negative 2. So negative 40. Yeah. So now the question says 1,000 subtract 40. Not negative. It'll be 960, exact same idea, okay? Now, technically, this is how you guys would most likely learn it. You'll have something that looks like this, maybe 2 times 3 minus x, okay? Because technically, if you're doing any question where you have both numbers inside, BEDMAS, just do the numbers inside the brackets first. It makes things simpler. But when we get here, we have a variable. When I go into these brackets, I can't combine these. These aren't like terms, okay? You'll get into that in a bit, but the idea of distributive property is now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the 2 and multiply it by both numbers inside. So 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times negative x is negative 2x. Okay? You just leave that number in front of the variable. Okay?
Isn't 1 always by the variable?
Yeah. If there's no number there, think of this as like a negative 1x there. So it would be 2 times negative 1. Well, 2 times negative 1 is negative 2x. Right? Does that make sense?
Yep.
Alright, and let's try one other one. I'll give you a question. Let's say we have 4, 3x plus 5. How would distributive property work here?
You do 4 times 3x.
Okay.
It's 12x.
That's right.
So you do 4 times 5, which is 28.
So positive or negative?
Positive.
There you go. Or simplify. That's our question. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Give it a try. Alright, next thing you're going to cover is order of operations. Okay? According to order of operations, do you know BEDMAS?
Yep.
You've seen it before, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have this, and it tells us we do brackets, exponents. Then division and multiplication, it depends which comes first. And then same with adding and subtracting. So in English we read left to right. So whichever one is to the left of the other is the first question we do. So let's say one of the examples. Let's see one of those examples.
2, 15 take away 18.
Oh, okay, so it's 2 brackets 15 take away 18. So the very last question we did, we were doing distributive, so we know we could do this. But according to our rules, we deal with what's inside the brackets first. So we deal with what's inside the brackets. 15 subtract 18. Yeah, will be negative 3. And now I have a multiplication question.
So 2 times
yeah, that's right. And we have negative 6. The other example we have is 7
take away 3
bracket
4 5 2 plus 10.
Plus 10. Okay. Here we go. Something with a little more complication to it. Okay. So we take a look at this. Our very first one, this looks like it could be 7 subtract 3, but what this actually says is this is a 3 times the bracket. So this isn't even a question yet. So we're not going to deal with that. But we have brackets, so we know we're dealing with the brackets. But even inside the brackets, there's two things. Yeah, there's an addition question, and there's exponents. We're dealing with the exponents first. That's right. We always just repeat. If there was a bracket inside the bracket, we would do that bracket. So we have 7 minus 3 times 4 times 4. You know what that is? good at 16 plus 10. So now I'm left with a brackets part. Now that I have those brackets, I can just deal with those. So I have 7 minus 3 times 26. Now if we take a look, looks again like I have a subtraction question, but I also have a multiplication question. I deal with the multiplication first, right, according to our rules. So I have 7, and this is negative 3 times positive 26. So first of all, is it going to be a positive or negative answer?
Negative.
Negative. So we're going to have negative, and what is 3 times 26? I'll do that.
78.
Yeah, good. Yeah, so now what we have is 7 subtract 78. What is our final answer going to be in this case then?
It was negative 78.
Very good. Negative 78. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right, give those other ones a try.